This clip right here, this picture that you see right here, this was, see, if you go to the Black Lives Matter website today, you go to their website today, you're not going to see this. But a couple years ago, this was what they had going on as far as their main principles regarding, basically what they stood for as a website. You know, this is why me, and this is why I don't necessarily support the whole Black Lives Matter movement, because, you know, they're not necessarily owned by, so-called, black people behind closed doors. They may have a face of maybe, a few women and everything of that nature, a few black women and stuff like that. But the main support was not even for, the so-called black man, in America or whatever. These were the things that they were actually supporting. You know, diversity, trying to be intercultural in a sense. They were supporting this globalism. Everybody should love each other and love the world and everything of this nature. This is what they were supporting. Gays or queers or everything of that nature. They would support, black women. It say black families, but that's a cover up for what they really are pushing right here. They are pushing the lesbians, transgenderism. They're pushing globalism, feminism, and everything of that nature. It's sort of why when people, like, if you're gonna support something, you need to do a fact check on what they actually are for. And this right here explains it all. This was their website back in maybe it was a few years back that I had caught this, and I'm like, okay, they're not really for black men like they really say they are, because when I look at this, it's not really for that situation. This is everything going against the so-called black man. I know when you look into these Black Lives Matter, marches and movements and stuff like that, why is it that it's always mainly white people, so-called white people, like intervening with a so-called black movement? And if the black movement is led by anybody, it's usually led by a so-called black woman, or it's not actually led by her, but she's the face of those protests or whatever's going on. Like, this is what they actually support all right here. And if you're a person who had went to that website back then, you would be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. It's not going to show it now on the new website, because I've tried to look it up and find it, but it's not showing it now because they've updated it, and maybe they were able to catch on to people seeing that it was not in support of so-called black men, because this is what they want. They want globalism. They want liberalism. This is part of the whole Luciferian doctrine that they, are trying to push out to not just black people, but just out to the world in general. And yeah, this is really all I wanted to talk about right here. Because if they were in support of black men, it will obviously show black men. But this is just a cover up to know that this website is for feminists, it is for gays, it is for transgenders. So yeah, and globalism, love the world. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to show on this one. But peace. And this is the Black Lives Matter movement, as far as their updated website right here, what we believe. Okay, but I'm just going to read a few of these things and see where it falls into place right here. You know, we are unapologetically black. In our positioning, in affirming that Black Lives Matter, we need not qualify our position. We love and desire freedom and justice for ourselves, and, well, to love and desire freedom and justice for ourselves is a prerequisite for wanting the same for others. We see ourselves as part of the global black family. Okay. And we are aware of the different ways we are impacted or privileged as black people who exist in different parts of the world. Okay. We are guided by the fact that all black lives matter, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, ability, disability, religious beliefs or disbeliefs, immigration status, or location. Right. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. Okay, so they make way for gays to lead. Okay. We are, gays and transgenders. We are self-reflexive and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift trans black folk, especially black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence. Yeah. We build a space that affirms black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. Right. So you are a feminist website, basically, who hates black men or not in support of black men per se. Yeah. We practice empathy. We engage comrades with the intent to learn about and connect with our context. We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so that they can mother in private, even as they participate in public justice work. Okay, so basically they dismantle the whole. See, they don't want patriarchy. They want matriarchy societies. They want the household of so-called black people to be led strictly by women and to be led by dysfunction. And that's what it's telling you right here, basically. Women are only working double shifts because of feminism allowing women to work at jobs. And I'm not saying that you can't work at a job, but understand, if you're a mother, your job, that's part of what you're supposed to do is raise a child. So double shifts, I mean, you work and all that stuff, and that's what you want to do. It's not nobody else's fault if you have kids and you got to work two jobs. That's what you wanted en route. So I don't know. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to a degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Why not fathers? There's no reason for the fathers to be comfortable either. For black men, so-called black men, to be comfortable either. I find that kind of weird that nowhere on here it shows anything about black men. Once again, this is what Black Lives Movement is actually about. As I read on the last stuff, the last picture that I tried to show, we foster a queer affirming network, meaning gays. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking. Basically, the normal way of how things actually are, opposite sex, got, men and women, being all that shit. But yeah, freeing themselves from that to be basically liberals, to be super liberals, or rather the belief that all in the world are heterosexual unless he, see how they did it, or they disclose otherwise. We cultivate an intergenerational and communal network free from ageism. We believe that all people, regardless of age, show up with the capacity to lead and learn. We embody the practice, justice, liberation, and peace in our engagements with one another. Right. Nowhere in here does it say anything about the heterosexual black man. Nowhere in here does it shows that. Shows nothing about the heterosexual black man. So what we believe, hey, that's on what that's on y'all for what y'all believe in. This is the Black Lives Matter website. All you have to do is just go to blacklivesmatter.com and it'll show you exactly who they support. All you have to do is read and see what it actually is. But yeah, they show you everything that they are about right here. Her story, he has a story too. So what about his story and her story? It could be separated, whatever. But when you look at all this stuff, this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm not really in support of this stuff, because it's not necessarily for us. That's all I have. Peace. I don't know, another clip right here I'm gonna talk about. It's gonna be short, but it's just a part of this whole Black Lives Matter thing. I'm talking about Darren Seals, who was born May 15th, 1987. He was killed September 6th, 2016. They were not able to find any suspects or any lead as far as any motives regarding his homicide. I think he was burnt in a car, or I'm not exactly sure, but I think he was burnt in a car. But I'm gonna go down right here because how I want to say it. All right, the last paragraph. Seals was known as King D. Seals. Okay, he was known as a businessman, revolutionary, leader, fighter, basically an activist. But he was one of the people who criticized Black Lives Matter, on Twitter, basically saying that the organization Black Lives Matter, he called them out for taking millions in donations from billionaire sponsor George Soros. I think George Soros has a lot to do with Walmart and all that stuff too. But yeah, he called them out for taking a bunch of donations from the sponsor George Soros, and giving nothing back to, at the time, Ferguson community, where they held protests against the police killing of Michael Brown. Mike Brown, who died in Ferguson. Seals' disapproval of the organization was founded in Ferguson's local activist settlement that they hijacked their movement and publicized it on social media as their own for personal, political, and financial benefit. Seals' criticism was blunt. The only thing, DeRay, Anetta, Black Lives Matter did in Ferguson was tweet about our work and collect money. I think he was, I want to say Darren Seals was killed shortly after this. And yeah, here we go right here. As far as he died September 6, 2016 on the north side of St. Louis. A homicide investigation revealed he was shot before he was placed in the car, which was later set on fire. There we go. Yeah, he was shot and put into a vehicle where somebody lit it on fire. Of course, they didn't want the evidence to be out there. Media outlets noted the resemblance of Seals' death to the unsolved killing of DeAndre Joshua, another Ferguson resident who was also found shot in a burning car 2 years earlier on the night of announcement. A grand jury had not indicted Wilson or Brown's death. Police reported that while Joshua's case is still open and active, Seal's death has not been linked to it, nor has a link been ruled out. So but yeah, Seals called them out on Twitter, basically saying that they was working for a higher power. And that's what I'm basically trying to tell everybody, that this Black Lives Matter movement, after a while, it got to a point where it was not really led by black people or so-called black people. I mean, of course, the ones that the three females that they try to place on top as far as like being the founders and stuff of that nature. Yeah, besides them trying to place them three females up there, yeah, as you see right here, they were clearly in the works with somebody behind closed doors, which all these programs usually are. And in this case, if it was sponsored George Soros, I mean, yeah, it's just like hijacking these protests that you see out here with George Floyd right now. The protests out here have been hijacked. They've been hijacked by mainly so-called white people. And that's usually what happens, to where you sell out, you buy out, you sell out what could have been probably a decent movement. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to show. Just a little information regarding the fact of them not Black Lives Matter not being necessarily owned by so-called black people, because it is being architected behind closed doors by somebody that's not black, but so-called black or whatever. But yeah, that's all I really got for this. Let me. They don't have a page for DeAndre Joshua. I was gonna click on that and see if they would have had any insight on that. But yeah, that's all I really have. Peace. Just a clip from Lord Jabbar, basically Vlad TV. But he basically gonna break down a little bit of how and why the Black Lives Matter movement was actually started. Sort of the same thing I've been saying, but he gonna break it down himself.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I just thought that was a weird shit. And I'm not no Black Lives Matter supporter. Like,
you're not?
No, absolutely.
Why not?
Because it's not our movement. This is a movement that was given to us by, George Soros and his fucking boys. Because they saw how things were going and they didn't want it to go back to the 60s to where we start having our own organic movements. That was a big fucking problem for them. So let's give the people a movement that we can control. We'll provide them the leaders and all of this type of shit. And, yeah, that's what Black Lives Matter is. Look at the leaders of Black Lives Matter.
Are there leaders of Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Who?
Look at these lesbian women who are trying to incorporate, LG, whatever the fuck the letters are, incorporate their concerns into black people's concerns. Go to the website, look it up. Google George Soros and Black Lives Matter, see what comes up.
Let's look it up.
Yep, exactly. It's not for you, black men. It's for transgenders. It's for feminist women. It's for single mothers. It's for black women. It's for gays. It's for everybody except for you. It's even for George Soros. He's the one getting the big bank. That's why he's the one sponsoring it. That's why Darren Seals called them out, because they're getting basically sold. They basically selling out. But it was to sell out from the beginning. It was to quiet you up so they'll do what they do to so-called black people all the time. When you in a uproar, or if you having some issue with the situation, they just do things to shut you the hell up. Yeah, but this is what this Black Lives Movement was for. And a lot of us don't really see that, because all we see, we see everybody holding their little signs up and all of that stuff, but it's not even for you, so-called black men. It's not for you. It's for everybody except for you. It's for the billionaires, it's for the gays, transgenders, it's for all the liberals, super liberals, for the feminists, for the single mothers, for everybody that's not named so-called black man, basically. But yeah, that's really all I want to say. That's all I got for this video. Like, share, and subscribe. This is RBV if you interested. But yeah, I'm out. Peace.